Welcome to the Daddyhood Rocks podcast with John Wolford and Brandon Miller. We are here to encourage you, empower you, and strengthen you so you can engage, level up, and have fun being a dad. We are going to have guests, deep conversations, hilarious stories, and insights that will give you the strength you need so you can be the dad you gotta be. And now, here are your hosts, John Wolford and Brandon Miller.
Welcome to another episode of the Daddyhood Rocks podcast. We are so excited to have you here. I'm John Wolford. This is Brandon Miller. Boy, we have just had an incredible time interviewing different dads, interviewing a mom to come. Brandon, what are your feelings on our guests thus far and what's coming up?
Man, excuse me, I just burped some beer. I'm going to edit that out. It's been really neat. What a neat journey so far, dude. Here we started off with some people like Shea Swanson, someone whom you know, that you had a lot of time together with, and then you had to call him Chase, which was kind of a fun challenge for you. We had Tito Carrillo, whom I've known for as long as I've lived here in Champaign, Illinois, and just a phenomenal family guy, just a great musician, jazz trumpeter. Let's see, who else have we had? We've had single mom, a friend of ours, Colleen Dorsla, great perspective. That was a lot of fun. We had our commercial, Can You Barista, which, you can always try to redeem yourself on that one next time, John.
I don't think I Yeah, and we've also had Justin Archuleta, who had an amazing story of redemption as well. And just talking about, gosh, I've been through so much, motorcycle accident, losing his sister, losing his children, and how now he's got children and he's got his niece and nephew, and just a beautiful story of redemption there. So it's just been so good to get to know all these guys and gals that we've had.
Ryan Lachelle,
absolutely. Yeah, can't forget about Ryan. Also another story, that redemption in progress almost.
Yes.
So yeah, it's just been so much fun, and man, we're so excited about what we have to come. We have some great guests lined up, people that you don't want to miss, and you definitely will hear some tough stuff from them. So there will be some tough love, some deep stuff, but they're going to give amazing insight. So please stay tuned, stick with us, because as this first episode of this first season of Daddyhood Rocks,
yeah, sure.
Think you can edit that?
I don't want to.
You don't want to? Good.
No, so real quick, as far as a few more things looking ahead, among some really great guests, and also some people who are influential, as far as there's the J Parenting Institute, the founder of that will be on here in a few weeks. What I'm most excited about, dude, is I've already had my brother on here, coming up here in a handful of weeks. Actually, probably in about a month from now, I'll be interviewing my dad, and sometime you'll be interviewing your dad, and then we'll be doing a dad doubleheader on the end of season 1 on Father's Day. It's must-see podcasting, must-listen podcasting. An interview with my dad, interview with your dad. I'm really excited about that. I think that's a great way to honor them and to glean from them just their wisdom, knowledge, their senses of humor, things like that. So what else are you looking forward to round out the first season?
Well, you've got my dream guests coming on, so stay tuned for that. I mentioned that Coach Mike Lightfoot is one of my dream guests. He is a national champion. He is a coach of hundreds of players, a father of 2 boys who have families of their own. He's just got so much knowledge and so much to pull from, having been a coach on the road, recruiting. It's a different it's a different view on how marriage and family is handled. And so I'm really excited to hear from him.
Well, that's fantastic. That's awesome, dude.
So tonight we have Shea Swanson on. This is our second single mom that we've been able to have on, and we are so blessed to have single moms joining us because they give such a different perspective. Shea is actually a friend of mine. We met, much like Brandon and I met, online. We met in a group chat that's full of Christians, actually, and we just talk about faith, and we pray for each other, and read the Bible together, and it's a good time. And so because of a love for nursing, a mutual love for nursing, and a mutual love for Enneagram type stuff, we became friends, and we're basically siblings now. So I'm excited to have her on and get her thoughts. So without further ado, here is Miss Shea Swanson. Welcome to another episode of Daddyhood Rocks. We are here with Miss Shea Swanson, and man, I'm so excited to have you on. Can you introduce us to your little family that you have?
Yes. Hi. So as you said, my name is Shea Swanson. I am 23 years old. I'm the single mom of two little tiny human beings. Zoe, who's 4, and Alina, she'll be 2 in May.
Cool.
Yeah. We live in Kentucky. It's pretty.
So, we're going to dive right in here. Alina is relatively young. Zoe's 4. Does Zoe get curious about her dad and why your situation is the way it is? How do you handle that? How does their dad handle that?
So I don't really, I thought about this question a lot. So Zoe, whenever me and her dad separated, the baby was about 3 weeks old. So that put Zoe at around 2.5. I'm not really sure that she remembers a time where her father and I were in the same house together. And I know that she knows now, you know, she goes to her dad's house during his time and she comes to my house during mine. But she's a really smart kid. So I think that question is probably going to come up soon, especially the more that she is around people who have a 2-parent household. So I think that the best thing that I can, like the best way I know how to handle that is to just explain that sometimes parents can do their best parenting when they're apart from each other. And that it just, when you are thinking about your kids and what they need and what they want, and you want them to be in a healthy environment, that sometimes that's just done when you're apart and live in 2 households, and that's okay.
No, for sure. Now, speaking of co-parenting, obviously you're a young single mom, a lot on your plate for sure.
Yeah.
So now, as far as dads, since this is primarily a show for dads and learning how to be just better dads, when it comes to co-parenting, how can dads who maybe are divorced or separated, what advice do you have for them as far as doing a good job of co-parenting with the moms of their children?
I think that the number one thing that dads can do as far as when it comes to co-parenting is just really try to be compassionate towards the mom. I think that, and I can speak for myself, I like to control things. So I know that I am not always showing my girl's dad the most grace or I'm not always at my best when I'm talking about our kids. And it doesn't come from a place of wanting to just be mean. And it just, okay, so you have to think that however long the mother of your child was pregnant, my baby, Alina, she was actually a preemie. So I was pregnant for roughly 6 months before she was born. She was pretty early. And then my oldest, so I had her 38 weeks. So that's 38 weeks with my oldest and 34 with my youngest that I got to carry them without sharing at all. So whenever the mom is losing time with them or whenever she is having to work with somebody else, it's not natural for her because she feels like she's fighting for a part of her. And maybe, like that's a really deep way to look at it. But the best thing to do, I think that the thing that I need most is just maybe a little patience and a little compassion and just respect her wishes as their mother. Not always, discuss things. Remember that you're on the same team. Ultimately, both of you are fighting the same battle, and that's raising kids who are going to be successful and just functioning adults in society. And you need to work together to do that. And not just with each other, but other people. It takes a lot of people to raise a kid. The two people just make the baby, but it's a whole village.
Oh, for sure.
Everyone.
Oh, without a doubt. Now, it sounds like you and the dad of your girls, you guys seem to be co-parenting well, which is huge. And that might be a relative term. But not every dad who's listening has a decent co-parenting situation. What advice do you have for dads who are kind of in an adversarial situation with the mother of their children, where things are just not on the same page, things not going well? What advice do you have there?
Also thank you for commenting on my co-parenting. We are not perfect, but
Sure.
And we're very different people, but we do work hard together. I think just, again, keeping in mind that you're on the same team, and that's really hard to remember, especially when you're letting feelings get involved. It doesn't matter what happened between you and that person in the past. And you cannot control what the other person does, what the mom does in her household. Just like I couldn't control what the dad of my girls was doing in his household. Ultimately, I'm not with them. And I'm not controlling his life. So it's just really important to keep feelings out of things. Don't make decisions based on emotion. If you're in a highly emotional state, say, hey, I need an hour to calm down, collect my thoughts, and then come back. It's okay. You don't have to solve everything that minute. And don't try to fix everything. I feel like guys always want to fix everything. I think it's a natural instinct for you all, which is great. It comes in handy. But sometimes we don't need you to fix anything. We just need to talk things out. We need help processing. And it's hard. It's really hard, especially if you don't get along with your co-parent. But you've got to remember you're the coach of the same team, and it's got to be a good one. You got to make it a good one.
Now, being a single parent is tough. It's a challenge. I don't even know if there's a word to describe being a single parent. Our podcast is primarily for dads who are just starting out, whether that's becoming involved in a child's life that they've had prior, haven't been involved with, or being a stepdad for the first time, or being a first-time dad, all these different types of beginning stages of dad. For guys who are entering a relationship with a single mom, what do they need to know? What do they need to expect?
Expect her time to be rare. And don't be selfish about it. Don't cling onto her in a way that makes you appear like you're trying to steal her time away from her kids. So she's going to be wrapped up with sick babies and emergencies and school pickup or homework or sports. There is a lot of time that goes into parenting. Also, remember that kids aren't a bonus. I remember dating. I'm not really in the dating scene a whole lot right now, but I remember when I was first like going into dating a little bit, and guys would comment on my kids and say how big of a bonus that is. And I know that they mean that in good intention, but kids are not just some prize that you win. They take a lot of work. They are a huge responsibility. So be straightforward about where you are with her. Communicate. Say, hey, I'm not up for the challenge of taking care of these kids. I'm not up to stepping into that role of loving them and treating them like I have been with them their entire lives. Because also, if you're dating a single mom seriously, she's looking for someone who's going to be a good dad. I mean, there are other things that have to come along with dating a single mom, obviously. But if you're just looking at the parenting side, a single mom doesn't want to date somebody she doesn't think is going to be a good dad. Because one, if you want to have more kids, she needs to know you're going to father them correctly. But also, her kids, you're going to take place of the father. You're going to take that fatherhood role, and if you were to be in the same house. And it's a huge responsibility. So do your research. Make sure that you're up for the challenge. If you say, hey, I really love this woman and I want to love her kids, spend time with them. Start learning the skills that you need, like feed them, make them meals, learn the schedules, start going to school pickup, become active in their lives, and really step up and take on that role. Because she's going to need it. But also, if you're not, don't waste your time. Just say, hey, you're great. I'm not up for this. And I promise you, she's not going to hate you. She's actually just going to appreciate that you were honest and didn't take any time away from her that she could be spending with her kids, because that time is valuable. So
great answer. And that's, just be honest up front. Hey, I'm up for the challenge, or I need to exit stage left. Just let me get me out of here. So,
and if you exit, it's fine. Goodbye.
Goodbye. See ya. So for you, faith is a huge part of just your daily living. So with that in mind, what role should faith play in a dad's life? Is it important? And if so, why?
So it is definitely very important. It's the most important thing. Your kids, when they're looking at you, they are watching your every action, your every word that comes out of your mouth, your actions and your words, and the things that you do, the words that you say, the way you just live your life and interact with people is the biggest display of the gospel. When you're diving into to faith and you're having faith, your actions will reflect that in the best way possible. You're going to display all kinds of goodness. And then also you're going to need it with challenges. Fatherhood is not easy. Parenting in general is not easy. It's not meant to do alone. And if there are problems that arise, and there will be times that you're like, what the heck is going on here? I have no idea what to do. And sometimes the only thing that you can do is pray and say, like, you need to step in here. You need to, like, I'm at my end. I have nothing else to give here. And that's when you can go based on faith and not by sight, and really make your next moves to get through those challenges and through those hard times. So,
sure.
So obviously you are not ashamed to preach your faith, but knowing you personally, you're also not ashamed to preach Enneagram stuff. So we've had Brandon Hall on prior to this, and he's talked about this. But how do you see a father incorporating this into his ability to parent?
Okay, so since we're talking about Enneagram, I just want to throw out that I'm a 7. I don't know if anybody could tell. I hide it very well. No, I'm the most enthusiastic person I know. So as far as the Enneagram goes, when you are finding out your Enneagram number, gosh, I love the Enneagram.
And just real quick, for the listeners who just jumped onto our podcast, let's say they know nothing about the Enneagram system, in a quick thumbnail sketch, would you share what that is? And then talking about yourself.
So the Enneagram is a 9-number system that labels your strengths and your weaknesses and your childhood trauma, which is basically like the lie that you would tell yourself as a child. It helps you know what those strengths and weaknesses are, but also helps you realize what your fears are and how your fears, your motivations, your core desires, and how you live your life and how that shapes your personality based on all of that.
Thank you. Awesome.
Welcome. Yeah. So as far as dads, when you find out your number, again, it does label it gives you a why to why you think the way that you do, why you act the way that you do. But remember, it's not an excuse. It is just a label. And you're not going to fit everything. Like, I don't fit everything that a 7 does, just a lot of the things. But remember that when it points out those weaknesses, especially the strengths are good. Like it can boost your confidence, because it points out all these strengths that you have, and you're like, wait, I really can do that. Like, that really is me. But then when you point out the weaknesses, it's like, oh, but don't use it as an excuse. Take those weaknesses, learn what you can do to correct those sour spots and become more of a well-rounded person. But also kind of dive into your trauma. If the Enneagram, so for a 7, the childhood trauma is, if I understand it correctly, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's just, we have a fear of not being taken care of. And I can look at my childhood and see why that is a very obvious thing. But it's just a healing process. Like, it can help you heal from that too. And then again, you're going to become this better person when you're learning all these things that you can work on and grow, because you never stop learning, you never stop growing, you never stop maturing. And if you do, then you need to reevaluate yourself. So the Enneagram is just really helpful, I think, for giving labels to things that are within us already. We just need to work on and grow.
Very cool. As far as resources that have been valuable to you, this is unscripted, but it's easy, I promise. As far as resources for you that have been helpful as far as discovering your Enneagram type and so forth, what do you suggest, whether it's websites or books or anything else?
So the first thing that I would suggest doing is taking a test. And I wouldn't recommend making that the end-all be-all, though. Take the test. Maybe take a couple of different ones. See if there are any trends in the numbers that you're getting. I know when I first got introduced to the Enneagram, I was actually labeled as a 1, which makes sense because 7s go to 1 in stress, and I was going through a very stressful time. But see if there are any trends, and then do your research. Hey, is a 7 connected to a 1? Is a 7 connected to a 5? Or what are, like, and then there are wings too. So the numbers can be connected a lot. See if there are any trends, see if they're connected, and just do your research. It took me a long time before I realized that I was a 7, because at first I thought I was a 1. I did my research, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'm an 8. And then no, I'm actually a 7 wing 8. But that was a process of like 6 or 7 months. Okay. Before I actually found my true number. And when I did, it's been tremendously just helpful. So do your research. That's all you got to do.
Fantastic. Now, doesn't take a lot of research to know that you're proud of your 2 kids. That's apparent. No pun intended, maybe it was. But for you, what are you most proud of when it comes to your 2 kids?
Oh my goodness. So, my baby, my Alina, she'll be 2 in May. She's a very lovable child. She has this very quiet, just persona about her, but she's very helpful. She wants to always like help clean up in the kitchen. Or the funniest thing that she does is she'll be eating like breakfast or dinner or whatever, and she'll take her food and she'll come to me and she'll like shove it in my face, and I'm like, Alina, no, like I don't need that. Like, thank you for helping me, but I don't need it. She really loves people. She really loves me. She's like stuck up my butt all the time. But I think she's going to be a very helpful person because she definitely oversteps boundaries, but what 2-year-old doesn't? Yeah. She's wonderful. And then Zoe is just feisty. She is so independent. And I love it because she's 4, so she just turned 4 in February, and she is very self-sufficient for a 4-year-old. There's not much that I have to help her do. She's even cooking, which is great. That's a huge help. But she'll like feed the cat, or she'll cook meals, and that's awesome just to see her in that. And she loves to learn. She has this desire just to learn how to spell and learn like what things are. She asks so many questions about the Bible stories that we read, or just being outside while we're hiking or anything. She just wants to know. She wants to have all this knowledge. And she's very thoughtful, which is adorable. We'll be in the car and she'll say, Mommy, I saw something that was pink and I know it's your favorite color and it made me think of you. And I'm like, that's just a sweet, I don't know. It's just so sweet. Or she's like, this is pink. You need it because it's your favorite color. Or you like avocados. You need to get those when we're at the store. Like, she just is constantly thinking about other people and what they love and what they want. And it's just the sweetest thing. My girls are so great. I love them. I am very proud of them.
Good.
Now, this is transitioning into my favorite question of all. We ask this very frequently, and we ask all these deep, amazing questions, and we get great answers and super good feedback. But for some reason, we're all about the gross and the nasty here at the Daddyhood Rocks podcast. We talked about grape barf, magic poop, exploding babies, all sorts of good things. So what is the grossest experience that you've had in parenthood?
Oh, my goodness. So when you sent me this question, I immediately knew exactly what I was going to say. So when Alina was a baby, I think she may have been a month old, maybe 2 months old. So she was a breastfed baby. And I don't know how much you dads know about breastfeeding, but you have to be really like specific with, or like scheduled with it. At least I was. Like, I knew exactly what time I was going to feed my kids, how long they were going to eat, what I was going to be caught up doing. So Alina had just started eating, and Zoe came over to me and she sits on my lap and she just looks at me and she said, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm feeding your sister. She's attached to me right beside of you." And she said, "Oh, I don't feel good." And she turns her head and she pukes all over her sister. So I have one tiny newborn who is attached to me eating, and then I'm covered in vomit. The baby's covered in vomit. Zoe's covered in vomit. And the worst part is that I had to let the baby finish eating. So we all were just hanging out like that and just covered for, I don't know, maybe like 20 more minutes. Oh, it was so gross. That is by far the most disgusting, nasty experience I've ever had. And Zoe never sat in my lap while I was feeding the baby again. I would not let her.
Oh, that's disgusting. That's horrible.
It was so gross. So gross.
Man. Well, thank you for humoring us on our typical question that we love to ask everybody.
Yeah.
But with that said, at the end of the questions we gave you, but we want to give you an opportunity before we wrap up. Is there anything else as far as advice or encouragement that you have for dads who are, freaked out or scared to death, who are just brand new to the party? What advice do you have for dads who might be listening and who are just now starting to do the daddyhood thing? What do you have for them to wrap this up with?
So I think that we're all freaked out and we're all just winging it. And you may look at other dads and think that they have all of their crap together and everything is golden. No, nobody knows what they're doing. We're all just praying and going along. So I think take some of the pressure off of yourself. And if you don't know something, look at a dad that you respect who maybe has a little bit more experience on that and say, hey, how can I become better in this? Have you ever dealt with this? Ask those questions. Ask for advice. You guys don't have to know all of the answers. Nobody knows all the answers. Yeah. We are not that cool. So just relax a little bit. It's okay. If your kids are clean and they're fed and they know that you love them at the end of the day, you did good. You did really good.
That's awesome. John, any last comments or things from you as we wrap this up?
I don't think so. I think it's just really good to every once in a while transition from dads and get that single mom perspective that, they do play both roles, and it's a tough position to be in. And so to be able to hear from a single mom, not necessarily what being a single mom is like, but how dads can help their either former significant other or the mother of their children, whatever you want to call them. It's good to get that perspective.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, Shea, thank you so much for carving out unexpectedly. This was kind of a last minute sort of an invitation for this time slot tonight. Thanks for jumping in and just a really enjoyable interview, for your great, your insight, your experience as a single mom. And so thank you for just taking the time to hang out with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, it was great. And we hope to have you on again. Our season 1 ends on Father's Day. Season 2 begins in the fall, and we very well may come looking for you, asking you to join us again for some time in season 2. So
okay, let's do it.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, Shea, have a great night and have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks.
All right. See ya. What a great episode with Daddyhood Rocks. Thank you so much to Shea Swanson for hanging out with us, sharing a young single mom's perspective. We really value that perspective, don't we, John?
Absolutely. I think single moms have this unique ability to see, to give us what they need. When we don't always see that. And so even married dads, we can take away from that and maybe even understand our wives a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Because of that perspective that we get. Oh yeah.
And just like we talked about in the intro, just all the variety of guests that we have just bring a richness to what we're offering to our guests. And so it's really exciting to have people like Shea willing to come on and just to share their stories. And, in talking with some people who are prospective guests, they will frequently say, well, I don't really have that great of a story. You know what? You're a dad, you're a single mom, you live life, you're in the field, you're qualified to be a guest. You have perspective that can inspire and motivate and to encourage dads to engage, level up, and have fun. That's all we really need. That's what our aim here, right? That's what we're about.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And engaging and leveling up is huge. And even on weeks where there aren't very many what feel like highlights, there's a lot of low lights. Yeah. But there's always a highlight. There's always a high point of a week. Whether that high point meets your threshold for a high point, there's always a highlight of the week. So, Brandon, what's your highlight of the week?
it was a handful of days ago. It was probably, I want to say Wednesday or Thursday, and my boys had gotten home from childcare, and we were getting ready to make some dinner in a little bit, but we had some time to just goof around, and the weather was nice enough. So what turned out, so first of all, I was playing this game. I was an ogre, and they were, I don't know exactly what they were pretending to be, but this ogre was chasing them down. But this ogre game quickly turned into hide and seek outside. And so we played a couple different rounds. And then I found, I mean, they like to play in our minivan. And so they frequently will hide out in there when it's their turn to hide. It never crosses their mind to really look in there too much. So it was cool. I was hidden in the back of our minivan, back seats folded down, blanket over the top of me, and using my phone. We have a Ring doorbell, and so they would frequently come up to the doorbell and say, Daddy, can you give us a hint? And so here I am, like just a few feet away from them, saying, just talking through the doorbell, hey, I can see you, or I'm not too far away from you, or I'm somewhere outside. And so they said, hey, are you in the van? No, are you in one of the cars? I said, maybe. So they came and opened up the van sliding door, looked in, shut the door. They were expecting me to just be in the open, but with that blanket covering me, they didn't see me at all. So did a few more minutes of that, and finally they kind of got a few hints. They thought it was important to look again in the van, and I threw the blanket open off of me and scared the garbage out of them. We just laughed so hard. That was my highlight. I needed that drastically. It was a tough week of work for me with some of my clients, just some of the journeys that they're on. It was tough, but having that laughter with my sons and just that fun, that was my highlight for sure.
Yeah, that's great. And actually it wins you an award.
Ooh, tell me more. Yeah,
you have won the Highlighter Award, the Highlight Award.
I will send in my acceptance speech in the second Tuesday of next week.
Got it. I'll be looking forward to that.
Wonderful. Great. Thanks, dude.
We are so incredibly blessed that you've decided to join us on this journey and join us in this episode tonight. We want to thank everybody for the constant support, the constant love, the shares that we get, the likes that we get, the listens that we get. Thank you. It's incredible to be able to do a podcast with my best friend about my biggest joy in life, and that's being a dad. And so thank you for loving on us so incredibly well. And we just hope that you've enjoyed tonight's episode and you continue to enjoy episodes to come. So as always, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're always trying to boost our presence there. So please come and join us on that journey as well. You can find us on YouTube. Brandon, can you give us that YouTube again?
BK Miller. For now, we're going to get our own Daddyhood Rocks channel here soon. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. And so as always, Daddyhood rocks.